Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips, and today I'm going to give you some additional incentives for why we need to address the childhood obesity issue really aggressively. According to a new study, 1/3 of children who are overweight in kindergarten become obese by the 8th grade, and almost every obese child remains that way into adulthood. Some overweight kindergartners lost weight, and some who were normal weight gained some weight, but every year after kindergarten, the odds that a child's weight status would improve got worse and worse. Now, this was an unusual study because most of the time when these studies are done, it's just to determine the percentage of overweight kids at any certain age or grade or that sort of thing, while this one actually followed close to 8,000 kids for a period of 8 years from kindergarten to 8th grade. And every year, their height and weight and BMI were calculated. Now, in kindergarten, when this group started, 12.4% were obese and 14.9% were overweight. Those sounds like really high numbers to me. By 8th grade, as you might imagine, things got worse. 20.8% of the kids were obese and 17% had become overweight. The researchers determined that while race and ethnicity and family income made a difference in really little kids, by the time they got to be 5, it didn't make any difference at all. Now, the kids were only tracked from age 5, but their birth records were telling because it showed that overweight and obese children tended to be overweight at birth, and that's almost hard to wrap your arms around, being overweight at the time of birth. Now, in response to this, health professionals claim to be flabbergasted at the results, how bad off we are and how bad these kids were. Lots of editorials and commentary appeared on blogs and newsletters and publications. I don't think that what we're seeing here is surprising at all. We know, for example, that certain behaviors in very young children predict their success or outcomes later in life. So, for example, the ability of really little children in kindergarten or first grade to choose delayed gratification in order to get more of something like candy is a predictor of success in adulthood. And so as a result of that, good parents focus on things like paying attention, politeness, study habits, and all kinds of other things because they know that as children grow and develop, those things will mold their future. So I don't think that this should surprise anybody. Now, additional commentary focused on the fact that studies of intervention programs haven't shown much success in helping children to lose weight or improve their health. Doctors and health officials have stated in a tone of resignation that it's almost hopeless to fix this. The die is cast. Furthermore, the experts say obesity seems to be genetically based. In other words, people just can't help themselves. And of course, the cost of intervention programs is high, and there's concern over how to fund them. I think all of this is ridiculous, and that interventions concerning diet and health should not be directed at only those who are overweight and sick. They should be directed at everyone. I tell families daily that the kitchen is not a cafeteria, and everybody in the family should be eating a health-promoting diet, not just the person, be it child or adult, who is overweight or sick. The same is true of the school cafeteria. All kids should be getting a health-promoting lunch, not just those who've been identified as having a weight problem or some form of disease. While I agree that doctors and other healthcare professionals should be discussing weight with overweight and obese patients, they should be discussing eating habits and lifestyle with everybody. Why do we wait for people to gain 50 pounds and become diabetic to have a discussion about healthy eating? And exercise, by the way, is not just for people who are trying to lose weight. Humans are designed for movement, and humans starting from childhood should engage in adequate physical activity. Last but not least, the insistence that genetics is an issue is ludicrous, and anymore I just discount and write off as incompetent people who suggest that this is why people become overweight and sick. Blaming weight and illness on genetics forces people to overlook the major and overwhelming evidence that diet and other habits are the primary drivers of health. How else can you explain things like migration studies? For example, when people move from an area of the world where they enjoy better health to here, they duplicate our obesity and disease rates. Studies of identical twins, intervention programs done by doctors like Esselstyn and Swank and McDougall and Ornish, and the failure of researchers to develop a single drug that has been targeted at genes that work. It's time for the members of the public, health professionals, and health authorities to stop claiming helplessness and cluelessness. It just aggravates me. It's like nails on the chalkboard when I hear this stuff. We have to stop waiting for someone else to solve our weight and health issues. It's a combined obligation for everybody. We need to begin taking good care of ourselves, lead by example, model good behavior, and address this issue as a society. It's also time to abandon any idea that's not supported by science and that has been proven not to work, which may mean that there actually is no place for government in this discussion. Almost every food and health-related issue in which the government is involved, ranging from the miserable and inadequate and misleading dietary guidelines issued by the USDA to the awful performance of agencies like the FDA, which are ridden with conflicts of interest, is interfering with progress toward better health. 5-year-old children and 8th graders can't take care of this issue on their own. They're counting on adults in this society to do it. And we really need to come together and get serious about this and start talking about the bigger picture. And one thing I'd like to point out, I've been putting together all this material to do these advanced study programs on WHOLE, Rethinking the Science of Nutrition by Dr. Campbell. And he talks about the difference between reductionism and holism. And I think that it's become painfully apparent to me that part of why all of our efforts to improve public health are failing is because they're based on reductionism, finding overweight children and doing something for them, or at-risk populations. We need to adopt health-promoting behaviors, diet, exercise, lifestyle habits. As a society, we have got to decide that this is important. We're not going to fix this in tiny little increments, focusing on one little group at a time, with one little intervention at a time. That's not the way it's going to work. It's going to work when we all come together and we deal with the whole of how we live. And I'm hoping that you're buying into this concept and thinking of ways in which you might help out. Well, that's all for now and all for this week. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think might enjoy watching it, and I will be back to you again next week.